Yes, we're back. That was a good start, wasn't it?
I think we should have had a wee intro, do you?
Well, gaze it in.
I mean, like, I'm coming out music and all that and getting everybody going again.
What music?
By the way, how shite is it being early summer with football?
Brutal.
Oh,
I've got into cricket.
do you feel that?
That sums up.
It's brutal, mate, isn't it?
You've been coaching the kids all summers. Do you think that's been shite? There you go. There's a guy that's taking money off people. You think it's been shite?
No, do you know?
Charging them a fortune.
What's he charging now?
No, we're not at all. We're right into it now. We're right into it. But no, listen. But with football, it's absolutely rubbish, boys. It is.
But it is back, and Glenn's Vodka SPL Manager of the Month's back, which means the fans are back as well. And we must say, yous have been incredible. Nah, mate, but they're unresponsive, man. What's happened?
No,
Good round of applause on that, no. Good to see you back.
We missed the Dundee United boy, didn't we?
I think we should take a minute silence for him. I've not been this sad since Kev died on the podcast. We've got a Dundee fan in tow sporting a mullet. Can we get the camera zoomed in right on that mullet? Tremendous.
Like he's winked to the camera.
Did you wink? Love it. We've also got the Hearts fan, and he's brought another Hearts fan who will be asking the questions for him. It went down shite as well.
Oh, it's a hard crowd.
Looks like it's going to be a fucking good season, doesn't it?
It's a hard gig tonight.
This is the last year for open goal size. Fucked it.
No, we're back after a great season we had the Broomhill, didn't we?
It was a cracking year we had. Fuck me. Here, what about, just quickly, quick fire, how's your summer been? All good?
Good, but I've missed it. I've missed yous as well.
We don't, we're going to talk. I hate that we don't speak at all, don't we know where the summer any of us for?
Well, me, Kevin Sidey.
No.
So I don't know what you're talking about.
But in it,
I've not spoke to you for a month.
you know, I hate that though.
I've had a great month.
That's
I've not really missed you as much.
Oh.
No, I hate it. I hate, see when people say like at the weekend, I love the weekend. I hate that. Right, Si, take it away.
We're on to the Celtic fan first, because obviously Ange won manager of the season last year. Callum isn't here. You fucking couldn't get a word in with him, can you? Callum, dearie me. So we've brought Darren in. The worst fears were realised. Ange Postecoglou went to Tottenham. How disappointed were you that he chose to go?
You knew it was going to happen, didn't you? Especially when the rumours kind of first started. It's like a big club like Tottenham, but you kind of think when a Celtic manager's linked to a huge top 6 team like England, you think surely they're just paper talk and nothing's going to come to it, and they'll get like one of the big managers that they have like Conte and Mourinho. I think that's why they kind of took an interest in him, because they've gone for managers like Conte and Mourinho who are like defensive-minded managers, kind of more tactical, whereas Ange is just attack, and that's kind of what the Tottenham fans have been missing, especially when they've got players like Son and Harry Kane. They need that kind of attacking mentality, and that's why they went for Ange. And I think the fan base was obviously gutted that he went, but we knew it was coming. When you get that much success with Celtic, unfortunately, with the amount of sackings that happen in the leagues like England, I mean, Ange was linked to a different team in England every month with the amount of sackings that were happening, so by law of average, it was bound to happen eventually.
Dev, can I just ask you, bring you on this? How much of a buzz did you get when you heard that Ange was away?
Oh, I was absolutely buzzing. As you said, I was obviously very successful, and a lot of people have made the jokes. I think I seen Ali McCoy saying that as well. I'll drive you down there myself. So I was buzzing.
And then Brendan Rodgers came back. Paul, what was your reaction when Brendan was first linked to the job?
I honestly didn't think it was going to happen at first. I didn't think he would have came back just the way it ended, but I mean, what a replacement it is. And I think, see, when you see like Kyogo signed a new deal, Hatate staying, Carter Vickers, I think Rodgers is a big part of that. Honestly, I think when they seen Ange was away, if you maybe brought a manager in that wasn't great or whatever, I mean, it would be good if I coming into Celtic, but you know what I mean, you maybe no heard or whatever, they might have been thinking, you know, we'll maybe leave. But I think when Rodgers comes in, and I've spoke to them and you spoke to Cal McGregor, Forrest and Tierney, they've all said that Rodgers is world class working with. And we spoke to Cal and he said that, I think this was when Ange, there was talk, and he said if Ange did leave, the one guy he would love back is Rodgers.
Share Callum McGregor's private conversations with
I didn't realise
that. That's great.
You know, when I started,
I'm sure you'll appreciate that.
Do you know when I started talking there, I was like, I can't keep going with this here.
Do you think Rodgers will continue Ange's success at Celtic?
I think he's the
ideal man too.
The best fit that was available to continue the kind of the way Ange was going, because he plays attack-minded football. That's the way he played at the beginning. The first few seasons he was there before he left, and he was in, obviously there's no compensation to bring him in. It's just come in, here's a job. Obviously, looking at some of the signings they've made, it looks like Celtic would have had a blueprint of players they were planning to get anyway, and Rodgers has probably looked and thought, we'll just go with it and I'll work with him. So
Also great that Danny McGrain's got a job for life again.
Aye, Danny McGrain's back in, and but no, I don't know. I just think it's an easy fit. Probably you as a bigger Celtic fan than me, no doubt.
What side were you on, Dan?
Celtic, there was some weren't happy, some were a bit. But do you think now, a few pre-season games and a few signings, everybody's just warm to the fact that that's Brendan back and we go again?
I think when the rumours started, Kev, everybody was a bit 50-50, and then when it became apparent that he was going to sign or he did sign, everybody just started to turn and realise that, as you say, all the candidates like Maresca and the the manager for Norway, Bodo Glimt manager, I can't remember his name, but
Knutson, is it?
Aye. But you have to evaluate all the candidates and take emotion and what he done a few years ago out of the equation, realise that it has to be the best manager for the job.
I just want to get this on record on camera. You text me, didn't you, saying you thought the Green Brigade were out of order?
That fuck. Oh, no chance.
By the way, you might get the old emails back. You used to email him, didn't you?
I've emailed him already.
And he's no reply.
You know, and I don't know if I should have done it. I asked him, and it was stupid. I wrote, P.S. keep me a seat on the flight to Japan. And I fucked it. Do you know what I mean? It's just that wee boy.
Yeah.
I should have just said welcome back and let him sort of speak, but he's not get back to us.
So
that could be there. Do you know what I wanted to ask you, mate? Are you surprised that Celtic haven't spent more yet? Because see, when Rodgers first came in, did he not say that he wanted to sort of spend more sort of to compete in Europe?
We actually spoke about it after the Wolves game on the channel, and we're quite surprised that. And I mean, we've made a lot of signings. We're not a lot, about 4 or 5 maybe, but they all seem like development players, like players you want to bring in. Limited game time, develop them up and then maybe sell them on in the future. But I think the fans are hoping for, since Jota's left and that for a lot of money, the fans are hoping for that marquee signing.
But why though? Because any marquee signing in the past 3 years not really worked, has it? Yanka Barcastle, 5-6 million, Shane Duffy, big signing for English Premier League. The ones that have worked are the guys that come in for 1.3 million at that is, who maybe at the time you think are no first team players, but they obviously come in and prove that they're more incapable of doing that.
Well, I think the recruitment at Celtic's obviously changed a lot. I know Ange is away, but Mark Lowell's still there, and he's played a part in bringing all the players in that we've got the new. Yeah. So, I mean, things obviously can change. We've got money now for the Champions League, win the league, selling Jota, etc. And like he says, there is that risk that you can spend 5 million or whatever and get a Barkas, a Yeti, whatever. But with proper recruitment, you can, if you spend wisely, you'll get a player. And I think we need that for getting into the Champions League. We got a bargain for the Japanese players like Hatate and all that, but I think if you're going in Europe, you need a big name. Celtic can't afford a big household name that everybody in Scottish football know, but for at least a big league in Europe, like we've got that boy for Poland, Legia Warsaw, that's a big club for 4 million. He's the kind of player that you want. Maybe get 3 or 4 of them for each position apart, and you're probably looking strong for a European place.
Alright, have you got a question for the panel?
Well, my question was kind of about Celtic buying a big money player. So with Rangers obviously doing a lot of spending just now, they've just got the Brazilian guy. Do you think that Celtic should get another striker in? Do you think that with O as backup and Kyogo as the main man up front, do you think that'll be enough?
Do you know, I think he's going to play Maida up front. I think, because you see at Leicester now, I don't know if Kyogo and Maida work together, because I think the two would look to get in behind.
He plays with a 4-2-3-1, doesn't he? Could there be a place where Kyogo plays 10 and Maida plays up through the middle?
But at Leicester, sometimes his last year didn't go well, but I think he went to a 3-5-2 and Nacho and Vardy played up front a lot. So I don't know if maybe away from home, like maybe in Europe, he maybe go to the two. But I don't know if Kyogo and Maida, can you see the two sort of, they're quite similar as in looking to get in behind. No one really comes to feet, do they?
Do they have the squad for a 3-5-2 as it stands now as well? I wouldn't really say they've got as much centre-halves for that. I know they've obviously, Carter Vickers, the new Polish boy, they just brought in Starfelt. Out with that, Scales looks as if he's going to go back to Aberdeen. I don't really think they've got the numbers for that. I'd be surprised. Kyogo's off the back of what was it, 30-goal season? Yeah. I mean, to move him out of position when Maeda had a successful season out wide as well, it would be a bit of a surprise to me. But I think the signings they've done looks like smart business, to be honest. I think the Asian market's something they've dipped into over the last 2 or 3 windows, and it's been successful for 90% of them that have came in. The Polish boys, similar background to obviously Juranovic coming in, who then has a great 18 months and sells on for a profit as well. I took a lot of stick last year for saying that I thought Celtic would buy a goalie, and I said at the time it wasn't because I'm saying I think Joe Hart's a poor goalie. I just think age profile, the type of football that Ange and Brendan Rodgers likes to play, I thought that would be an area that would maybe go in and try and strengthen. Doesn't it seem as if that's the case? I know they were linked with the boy Livakovic for Dinamo. Whether that's somewhere that for now at the end of the transfer window they try and spend in, I'm not too sure, but that was the area I thought.
Need a new goalkeeper, 100%.
I think so, Dan.
He's making too many mistakes, man. He's a good shot stopper, but he can't play with the ball at his feet. That's why Pep get rid of him.
Well, that was the main reason, because like I said, he had the most clean sheets in the league last year, conceded the least goals obviously, so he's not had a poor season by any means, but I just thought more the transition of how Ange at the time obviously wanted to adapt his style all the time, and then he wants to take it into Europe. How are they going to improve? I thought that was going to be the area, but I think Joe Hart, even if he was number 2, the type of character he is, he's still going to be a massive part in the dressing room.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be interesting for now over the next sort of month or so, because I wouldn't be surprised to see Celtic be linked with a couple of goals.
I think Rodgers uses his goalie a lot more than what Ange did as well. For my memory, for the first time Rodgers was at Celtic, there was a lot of time the ball would end up back at the goalkeeper, whereas Ange was more about playing forward quicker, wasn't it? So I think you could be right in a goalkeeper's where he looked at.
I think the goalie situation is a difficult one at Celtic, because how often do Celtic actually use a goalie's feet in a Premier League match? Maybe a wee bit more so in Europe, but in a Premier League, Celtic probably have, you see, 70 to 85% possession against most teams. Where in that does the goalie come in?
I think in Europe it's so important.
In Europe,
top teams are going to come and press you. You need a goalie that can play.
No, but we're potentially talking about 6 games.
Look at the goal.
At best, not best. At
away
worst.
when they cost a goal. Do you know what I mean? That's you can't keep on making mistakes at that level.
I do believe a better goalie would be good for Celtic, but I don't think I would rather have another striker.
Would you, Kevin?
Well,
As much as I like Kyogo scoring 30 odd goals, do I think if Kyogo was to get injured or something was to happen to him, do I think O can come in and score 30 goals? I don't think so. Do I think if you put Maida up front, if it was like you said earlier, do I think Maida is comfortable enough? He scored a few goals, but for me sometimes I think he's a bit
erratic.
Aye, good word.
Thanks, mate.
Get Scott Bain back between the sticks. That's what I would say.
He just signed a new
that
contract.
Every club's got their own remit. Every club and every fan here knows what their club's progression is likely going to be this year's. And Celtic's, I imagine, is going to be Europe, innit?
Yeah.
They're going to want to make an imprint this year on Europe. They've ran close the last couple of years. They got a lot of praise last year for their performances. Results didn't quite match it. I think a big thing that Brendan Rodgers is going to get judged on this year is how they perform in Europe. So if you're talking about the goalie with the ball at his feet might be judged a bit more and needed a bit more in Europe, then that's probably where they're needed to strengthen the room for, innit?
Brilliant, mate. But we're going to now move on to Rangers. Div, one of my closest mates, you know that?
He's our tight
Yeah,
end.
really
Really
We go way back, didn't we?
Where was it again, mate? First mate.
Loudon, wasn't it?
Now, Div, can Rangers topple Celtic this season and win the league?
Of course they can. Of course, it's been a big rebuild when you look at the amount of players that Rangers have brought in and a lot of key players going out as well. It is a big rebuild, and will they gel? I think on paper it looks really good. The signings that we have brought in, and boy Danilo just in, I think there'll be pressure on him to hit the ground running, with the sort of the rumoured wage packet that he's on and such, and also the boy Lamars that's come in. He's really impressed me in pre-season. But again, I think too many people make too much out of pre-season, because last season Rangers looked really good in pre-season. The boy Matondo was really good in the West Ham game, I remember, and then when we went into the season, we didn't look very good. So this season, obviously so far in the pre-season, it's not looked amazing, but you're hearing that the pre-season's been really difficult as opposed to last season. People were saying it was more technical or whatever, it wasn't as intense. So they've been going into the games with heavy legs and such, so you can't read too much into the pre-season. But what I would say is I hope that it does gel, because on paper it looks like good recruitment so far.
What players have stood out in pre-season? I know the results hasn't been great, but is there any of the new signings stood out?
It would be Lamars for me. He's been kind of floating about. He's been the left to the right in the middle, and he's surprised me as well. He's quite a tall player, but he looks very technical, left-footed. He reminds me a wee bit of Hadji, but with a wee bit more pace. So he's the one that's definitely stood out. He scored a goal against Hoffenheim there in the last game as well. But the biggest thing for me that I've seen so far in the pre-season, I know that we've not looked amazing, but it does look like the players that are moving with intensity. They are really pushing themselves. And last year, I mean, Morelos looked like he was towing a caravan and such. So seeing that
with 20 people in the caravan.
Exactly.
Whole caravan,
Seeing that desire, seeing that passion is definitely a positive for
I've had that too in pre-season. No started well because of the intensity of training.
Oh, aye, definitely.
And then when you get into the season, you're absolutely flying. So I think that's a good point. There has been a bit of overreaction towards the performances and results, isn't there? Especially the left back area. I seen on Twitter the other night people going off their nut, weren't they?
Yeah, aye. Obviously, Ridvan never had a good game there, but towards the tail end of last season, he was good. That would probably be a wee bit of concern, but again, I think people read too much into pre-season for me. And as I say, last season, the rumours were it was more technical in pre-season with Gio, and I think that showed in the season as well, because I don't think we're fit enough. I mean, look at the Ajax game, they absolutely battered us in the Champions League, but they ran more than us. You would think it'd be the opposite, so I'm hoping come the Kilmarnock game we'll be flying, but a full week's rest, and we'll soon see how they get on.
The thing is, you'll have to obviously, Rangers, the signings you've had and the expectations, again, there's always the expectations, but more so because of what's happening at the other side of the city. And with the first Old Firm game being so quick, Rangers really need to hit the ground running, because if they don't, and say they lose that first Old Firm, there's going to be huge pressure. Would that be fair to say, or unfair? Because obviously you can't be losing, like, you know what I mean? Usually most Old Firm games, you've got about 5 or 6 games at the season, possibly more, and then there's the first Old Firm game, and it's like, right, okay, we're warmed up. Whereas Rangers really need to hit the ground running. They've got Kilmarnock first, and then Livy. No,
I was going to say that. I think it's imperative that Rangers, after the first round of fixtures, are top of the league, because no disrespect to other clubs, but you're looking at the hardest fixtures Old Firm are going to get is probably Tynecastle, Easter Road, Pittodrie, you would say. Yeah. And Rangers have got all 3 of their teams at home in the first round. Celtic are playing them all away. The first Old Firm game's at Ibrox. So I think you've got to be top of the league after the first round. I know there's no guarantees in that. They've made 8 signings already. I think a big positive is they've got them in early, because I think 6 of them have had the full pre-season under Michael Beale. So I think when you've got that many signings, it is, I know fans don't want to hear it, but there is a sort of gelling period in it. You have been there when it comes to new styles, new training, new different methods, and it's going to take time, but they've got that added benefit that they have got them in early. I still do think they're a couple short. I think a left back's imperative for now at the start of the season, and I think as much as I think the profiles of the centre halves are good, you know, John Shooter's obviously had his injury issues. Leon Balogun's 35. We know he's came in as cover because obviously Leon King. So I think another centre half as well. So I still think a couple more to come, but I think a big priority is outgoings. I still think they need to get rid of sort of 5-6 bodies that are probably not going to play any games. So I think you'll still see quite a fair bit of movement.
Right, question. Have you got a question for the panel?
My question would be, how do you envisage Rangers playing this season in terms of style? Do you think it'll be more attacking? Do you think it'll be more possession based and such? Because looking at last season, it was quite hard to tell. But obviously now he's had a full pre-season. He's got all his signing. It looks like he's got all his top targets so far. How would you envisage seeing Rangers play this?
That's a great question, because I seen Rangers a couple of times last year, and I thought that I didn't really get a clear identity of what Michael Beale wanted how he wanted his team to play. They're going to play it for the back, they're going to be in the front foot. I think you're a good person to answer this, as you know Michael Beale.
I think that a big difference you'll probably see is the sort of intensity factor. So I think the counter pressing out of possession. I think Rangers and Celtic are always going to be possession based teams in domestic football. I think you only really tell what their style is when they do play in Europe and they're playing against teams that are of similar ilk, similar quality. So I think there will be, of course, they're going to be attacking domestically, but I think out of possession is going to be a big difference. I think you can see for the sort of profile of signings already, they're not going to have any wingers in the squad. Everyone they've signed's been sort of a striker. They've got obviously 2 midfielders coming in at centre half, and leaving looks as if Sakala, Scott Wright. So is it going to be that sort of narrow 4-3-3 that Gerrard used over the last couple of years? Is it going to be a diamond that they used a couple of times towards the end of the season? And I certainly hope it's not a diamond for Rangers.
Will he be the type of manager? Will he be the type of manager like Andy who'll have a system and stick to it, or will he be quite adaptable based on the opposition?
I think his style will be consistent. I don't think the shape will be, and I think you've seen that last year, and I think you'll see it again. Even in the pre-season games, they've played a diamond, they played 4-3-3, they played a 3 at the back for about 15 minutes against Newcastle. So already they're sort of tinkering with different sort of shapes, but I don't think that will change in terms of style. I think the style will stay consistent.
Do you not think that's a bit dangerous having no wide players?
I do. I think especially in Europe. I think especially when you do need to adapt a wee bit more, and you do say you're playing like a Liverpool again in the Champions League, and your biggest chance against Liverpool probably is in the counter and transitions, which you see teams in the Premier League do. I think with wingers, with sort of pace in the wider areas, I think that's 9 times out of 10 when you're going to hurt teams in Europe. But to be fair, under Gerrard, the narrow 4-3-3 was the sort of the way they used that style, and they obviously got at the group stage 2 year running. So
What type of striker's Danilo in terms of how does he play? Like, is he one of these guys that's going to be slipping balls in through gaps, or?
I like everyone, probably only seen like a sort of YouTube compilation, which is always what you see when it comes to new signings, and it seems as if he's a sort of penalty box striker, to be honest. He's he never started many games for Feyenoord last year and still managed to score 14 goals, so it's obviously quite a good return. But I think another thing you look at the sort of profile of the signings is they're all a lot younger, so they've got already a lot of players that were 30 and above, and most of these are sort of early 20s, mid 20s, but they're all about 6'3". It's like it's a
big team,
big stature of set up of players that are coming in. So I don't know. It'll be very interesting. I'm not going to say that Rangers is going to win the league or Celtic's going to win the league, but I think it'll be the tightest title race we've had in the last few years. I don't think there's any doubt.
What about outgoings? Who do you expect to go at Rangers?
I think Kamara, Scott Wright, potentially Sakala is going to go.
Fashion never travelled to Germany, and people were saying that's him or whatever, but I think it's a good point you make in terms of pace. I think that is somewhere we were lacking, and they're all quite tall guys and such, so I'm not sure on the Fashion leaving. I would prefer to get rid of Matondo, but if there's an offer on the table there for Fashion and he hasn't his cup of tea, then it does make sense for him to move on. But I would be the same as you. I would like somebody with a wee bit of pace, but I've not seen much of Danilo. Whether he's got that or not, we'll need to wait and see.
When was there the last time there was a title race? Because when Rangers stopped at 10, that wasn't it either.
No.
It's been a long time, and it's no healthy for the league, that.
I done, Paul. Good point.
Anybody's.
Done your research.
I think it'll be tight this year.
Do you?
Aye.
Right to the wire?
It has to be tight. It has to be tight, because if it's not,
I don't
we'll
think
probably fucking see.
Do you know?
I don't think so.
What, you think Celtic run away with it?
I do. Sorry, Div.
Oh,
What?
right in the fields there.
I'm sorry, mate. I do.
What is that based on? Just the quality of
I think, Simon, on your
squad, the quality of their manager.
See-
Rangers have got 8 new players that are a bit.
See, on your point there, Simon, about obviously the league, I think the teams in the past, like your Hibs, your Hearts, your Aberdeens, I think they've been poor, and normally you would see the likes of them maybe take some points off the Old Firm. For the last lot of years, they haven't, because they have been poor. But I think Aberdeen will be stronger this year. I think they could be difficult games at Pittodrie, where sometimes they aren't. I think Hearts will be stronger. I think Hibs need to be stronger. So I think both the Old Firm teams are hoping that these teams are stronger, so they can maybe take points off other than just Old Firm games, if that makes sense.
I think the reoccurring theme in a lot of Rangers' recent seasons is having a dip somewhere in the season and maybe drawing a couple of games, losing a couple of games. We cannot afford to do that this season. They need to be on it for the start of the season to the end if they want to be in this title race, and we'll soon see.
So, what you two doing after this, since you're tight now?
I might come back to yours.
Aye.
Aberdeen, the best fan.
Aaron and Andy, I hate doing it to you, mate, but I think Aberdeen are going to finish third.
That's pure for you.
No, it is. I think Hearts will be good, Andy. I do, but I think Aberdeen, they've signed outstanding.
At least third.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, yeah.
What,
You'll not be any higher than that, that's for sure.
Are you right? Based on what, sorry?
It's been so good.
I love that.
Beat Charlton.
Oh, he beat Charlton.
Charlton?
Don't know if they're good or not. We said on Saturday, if you win, amazing, brilliant, we're winning the lot. If you lose, it's fine, doesn't matter, it's pre-season. So I don't know what it means.
So can I ask you, who have you been impressed with? You said the recruitment's been amazing. Who?
Mickey Devlin, unbelievable. The
Put
centre
the ball in
half.
his own net on Saturday.
He scored an OG Saturday? Huh?
Aye.
Yeah, it wasn't brilliant.
Rumours get about in football, and I've heard through the grapevine, that the boy Socklers
Up there with the best.
Have you seen him in pre-season?
Yeah, so I was in London on Saturday. He was alright. Not as standard.
So everyone up here.
Grapevine's a lot of shit.
They're talking shite.
Well, second half we were 3-0 at half time, absolutely flying, and second half we just absolutely breaks on. So yeah, he looks good. He scored 4 on his first appearance.
That's decent.
Do you know what's
Still.
I think they won 9.
But
Sorry, Aaron.
no, he looks alright. Clarkson's the big one, I think.
Yeah, what a signing, eh?
I was surprised. I was surprised that he's got him in a permanent. I really was.
4 years.
He was a great signing, then obviously getting the boy Reece Williams, isn't it? Reece Williams on loan for Liverpool as well. So
Oh, no one's seen him. He's injured. So
I think you look at Aberdeen, and they've definitely strengthened in terms of depth, and I think that's what you had to do, because obviously guaranteed Europe to December. There's going to be a lot of games, so you certainly needed more players, but I think quality is the most important thing. Certainly looks as if they've done that.
I think though, Andy, and I'm surprised none of you have mentioned that, quite poor actually, that Duke Miofsky stayed, which is incredible really. That's probably the best bit of transfer that they kept him in it.
How do you see they three fitting into, what is it, Barry Robson plays? A 3-5-2? Sorry, Barry Robson. Barry Robson, sorry.
Yeah.
I've just went against myself. How do you fit if he's a big signing, obviously came in, how do you fit the three into two positions?
Everyone keeps saying the 3-5-2. Last season we did kind of a back four. I think we had Scales, Pollock, McDonald, McCrory.
Yeah.
Big thing that I am worried about, people keep saying, because we've signed quite a lot of people keep saying, oh, we're fine. The defence is actually massively weak. So Scales gone. Apparently potentially looks like coming back, but still Pollock gone, he's not coming back. McDonald's injured, should be back soon, and then we replace McCrory with Devlin. Defence I don't think looks brilliant. We'll probably just play the three of them in a rotation where they play kind of 60 minutes over, which is fine. If we're playing Thursday, Sunday, we're not having people playing, like Majowski is good, but he starts to look a bit tired. Duke starts to look a wee bit tired. We'll just play the three of them in a 60-minute kind of rotation, I think.
Strikers didn't like playing 60-minute rotations though, do Shankland did that last year at Hearts.
I think they do.
Oh, did they? Like,
Yeah,
is he,
Do you know Duke wears copas?
is he?
Aye, honestly, he's the only player I've seen wear copas in the last 15 years. I get so much respect for him, but
He's so good. He was
saying he's right. Keeping him
weekend.
was massive, and Shinnie
Cormac-
as well, getting
Cormac
Shinnie
said
back
a while
permanent. So
people kind of said, "Oh, what we're going to do?" You know, Duke and Majowski, and he kind of said, "Well, we're in a pretty decent position financially. We've sold really, really well, and it's all well and good if someone comes in with a big offer, but you also do need players, and it takes a while to get someone signed. You can't sell someone and buy someone within a week. So, Duke will stay." Duke's only got 2 years left. I suspect this might be the last season we see of him. But Shinnie makes a big difference.
Did you find that hard this year? Sorry, Aaron. Did you find that hard this year, balancing Europe and the league?
no, until we get the amount of injuries that we did. I think at the start, when you've got the squad at 24, 23, 24, whatever Aberdeen are going to start the season with, it's fine. But then once you get the sort of 5, 6, 7 injuries, then it sort of takes its toll, because then it is the same sort of 12, 13 players that are playing 3 games a week, whatever it may be. So I think a lot of it is a bit of luck, and that's just a fact. Like every single club's the exact same. You want that bit of luck where you keep the majority of your squad fit throughout the season. Fingers crossed that every club has that. But every club's going to try and recruit to the best possible that they can to have plenty of quality, plenty of depth. So
Aberdeen, your favourites for third as well?
Aye, I would say Aberdeen third, and the reason I would say it probably isn't down to the personnel, because I think they've got good personnel. I just really like Barry Robson. I don't know what it is. I think just from day dot, getting the job or getting the caretaker role and doing what he did in terms of bringing in the boy Steve Agnew from Middlesbrough, and now he's assembled his own team. I think he'll go on.
Alan Burrow's a big part of it as well.
Aye, Alan Border's obviously from Motherwell. He done well on the media, the kind of the role he had at Motherwell, done really, really well. And if you look at Motherwell now, they're probably struggling from that side of things, whereas Aberdeen are now, I think their content, what you see and read about them, I think is a lot far better.
Yeah, he's constantly talking.
It's constant communication, explanations, understanding of why they're doing things and things like that into the community more, talking about the future plans with the stadium, etc. I think that Aberdeen are in. He just seems to be active.
Our League Cup game's the Friday night, which can I just have a nice Saturday day out? It's Friday night, and obviously normally what would happen is everyone's arguing about why it is, and there's all this drama. Straight out, there's an event on in Stirling on the Saturday, so can't play there. We were offered Sunday, but we'd rather play Friday because we're playing in Europe on Thursday, and that's it, done. And the engagement with fans is really good. Just generally, I think everyone's feeling the new strips are very nice. Everyone's just feeling quite
positive.
Right? Defence is a bit worrying.
See, a question to just everyone, that because that interests me about when games are. See, as fans, is it 3 o'clock Saturday? Is that what everyone wants?
Yeah.
3 o'clock Saturday, everybody.
Friday night for me, mate.
And then Friday, I want a day out. I don't want to go there on a Friday. What am I meant to do all weekend?
Is anyone any different?
Friday night.
12 on a Sunday. Aye.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's a Friday night for me.
Sunday, yeah.
Friday night, I get like a sag off the missus. So.
But then what do you do if you play on a Friday night? What do you do the rest of the 2 days?
Exactly.
Recover.
Plenty of free time.
I just.
That's that. Come and see Scott Bride.
I've been to some pre-season. I went to Linlithgow Rose Steny. It's quite good. Pies were excellent. But to be fair, I actually do think that's a valid point, that if your team plays on like a Friday night or a Monday night or something, Livy are so good for this. They will put up, we're playing on whatever day, but on Saturday, here's all your localish clubs you can go to. Here's what's on. Here's how much. Here's how to get in. It is good because if you are kicking around on a Saturday, there are loads of clubs that would really welcome, an extra 1 or 2 people going along.
Definitely. Have you got a question for the panel?
Who do you think's the first manager to go this season?
Wow,
Cutthroat.
great question.
I think it's yours.
I can't answer that.
I'm going to answer, and I'm going to say Steve McLean.
Yeah.
Do you think, but they're not a club that get rid of managers easily, aren't they? I don't know. I
know that's what you're true in terms of like they tried to hound
time.
Callum Davidson, but there's a lot of noise already. I would agree with St Johnstone fans on Steve McLean already. Would that be right?
I don't think there'll be a sacking. Oh, sorry, on you go, mate. But I think the first one to leave will be Martindale.
Really? Do you think he'd walk?
Yeah.
To take the Saints job.
Who knows?
Or as in there'll be a reshuffling as opposed to...
No, I think if they have a bad start, I think
Hey, Davy boy back
before he got
upstairs.
sacked.
Get somebody in.
I think Davy would
See, I
walk
don't-
before being.
Yeah.
But I think if Livingston do badly, they'll give him a chance because they feel like they owe him. I do think their fans would give him a while.
He'll give his sell a chance.
Davy sell a chance.
Davy would never get sacked.
No
Never.
chance.
Like, categorically, but I think Davy.
Some shout for side that one.
I said no get sacked. I said he might leave
Aye,
off his
might
own
leave,
accord if
but-
it's a bad start.
I think Davy is kind of like what you say. If we were to have if he thought he wasn't the right man anymore,
Yeah.
he'd walk. I think.
What about Lee Johnson?
That's a good great.
Oh, aye.
That could be one as well.
I know we're going to go into Hibs, but how is the fans with him now?
It's probably like 60-40 in favour of him going.
Is that?
Aye, the result on Thursday was like a big boot in the balls for him.
It's quite funny though, wasn't
See, it was funny.
Like,
Like, I mean, even as
laugh at
even as a
everyone
Hibs fan, you can kind of go, "That's fucking funny." 'Cause I think we'll turn them over on Easter Road, right? I don't think there's any doubt about that. They were an awful team, and we were just crap on the night, right? We'll get them Easter Road and turn them over. But Lee Johnson, after, instead of just coming out and saying, "I'm really sorry, we were crap," he starts going on about altitude. He starts saying like it was the players' fault. They didn't follow instruction. He says something about red arrows. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And the fans are
the
all like,
interview where he said there's 10 players I'd get rid of straight away. I thought, sure.
aye. So I like Lee Johnson, which is the kind of the ironic thing
interviews are mental.
when we slaughtering him here. I like him. I think he's a good manager, although there's like a growing body of evidence to say that he's no, because you get like our League Cup campaign last season was crap. Scottish Cup out the first time I asked in. Hammer for Hearts twice in a row. Fair enough, he then went on to beat them again. Losing 6 goals at Parkhead. There's like all these like embarrassing moments that he's racking up. So he needs to start the season well. We didn't play Old Firm or Hearts till October. So I think regardless of what happens on Thursday, if he doesn't get a load of points on the board by then, he could be
The 6-0
out.
Easter Road, I think if we'd won that, Goodwin would have stayed and he would have gone.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, should we just go on to Hibs?
I think so. What we were speaking just before you came in about, I mean, it was a shocking result. It was a brutal result, but I don't think, and you're big on this as well, Si, that any industry that, even if it's
Go on.
anybody should be getting abuse like that. I don't know. I understand it's a lot of money to go on that trip.
I can see what the fans meant, mate. I'm totally getting what the fans they paid their hard-earned money, mate. No,
A bit of context here. This was Slane saying exactly what Si said before the show, and now he's changed it right up on him and he's crumbled.
I think that you've got every right to
voice your opinion.
Voice your opinion, and say, because that isn't acceptable. But when you're some of the language and all that, I'm no big. I know that, but to be fair, the Italians are big on it, aren't they?
See, we talked about that on the podcast about like the Italian ultras and that when they're
There you go then, you're right, mate.
training, and you have that right. Is there an argument to say you didn't accept a result like that, and so you vent your anger? But at the same time, can you imagine shouting at a bus driver like that?
Exactly,
The bus
mate.
was like,
No,
you just
sure.
can't do that. Like I think there's a line that some folk crossed when they're over there.
See on those Hibs fans, are they the die-hard ones that travel home and away? They've obviously paid their money.
Oh, aye.
Or is that just a group of Rajas decide, you know what, it's a cheap trip to Andorra, let's go for it?
No, 'cause I didn't think it was cheap, was it? I seen the prices.
Aye.
and I just went,
It's
I'm
not-
presuming you wouldn't have got many tickets, so it must have to be
the hardcore.
points.
Aye,
Like, it'd have
to
to
get
be,
the
like,
tickets, aye.
we've like Tynecastle, for example, because they've absolutely cut the allocation. There's about 400 of us that are in the bracket to get and so you kind of know who's going to be there all the time.
Yeah.
You're not going to get people who've never been just turning up to be a nightmare, I don't think. I mean, it will be people that went there thinking we're getting through, but we'll go anyway because we'll go to everything. They've spent a lot of money. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I mean, it was quite bad.
But these results they're not uncommon in Scottish football, isn't it?
No,
The teams that get into Europe early and they need to go and play these games, a lot of them get beaten that way. Fixture, I mean, Celtic got beat for, was it Red Imps?
I had Rangers with that progressive unicorn.
Kelly, I remember Kelly
Kelly
lost
as
it.
well, Connor Quays, wasn't it?
Actually, crazy.
I forget about
Maltese
that
team
one.
or something, was it? Maltese team. Like it happens. That I always think like the early rounds. You have like all season trying to get into Europe, and it's like a race to embarrassment, isn't it? It's like the amount of teams that get to that first game, and then you're like, oh, for
Fuck's sake.
can we know just to finish sixth?
Yeah.
We would have been quite happy coming into the season.
There was a really bad Motherwell team that got beat away from home one year, wasn't there?
Gogsy, do you remember that up with Jim Gannon, we were there in Albania,
Yeah.
Flamitari, and I mean, we get beat 1-0. It was a hot. Do you know there was half time? Like 20 minutes, they called a wee
The
break.
drinks break,
It was that hot. That's quite common.
It wasn't
wasn't
just that. It was the round before we lost at home to Llanelli 1-0.
Say that again, Gogs. That was brilliant. Say it again.
Llanelli.
Oh,
And then we had to beat them 3-0 away from home. And then,
aye,
and then of
so
course, lost in Flamitari in Albania and then ended up playing Stoya Bucharest in the next round after winning 8-1 at home. Yes, we scored 8 goals.
8
in the
goals.
second leg.
Paul Slane scored one of them.
That was a screamer ass that night, wasn't it?
I've seen you do those stupid wee somersaults as well.
Be careful now, Gogsy.
Anyway, can I just say, finally, I've realised where Andy Halliday's got his inspiration for his hair.
it's like unbelievable, isn't it?
Can we zoom in on that? There you go, Gogs, the influencer, mate.
I'll pass on commenting.
Right,
This
what's
is why, though, I think we've got the playoff, obviously, for Europa. We win it when Europa, we lose it in the conference. And I said this morning that it's maybe bad to say, but I don't mind if we end up in the conference because I think we're more likely to pick up a few results. And is that bad? Is that bad to say?
No.
I don't think
I'd rather win the Conference League than
financially there's
Find
no
the
that
groups.
much of a difference.
That's the exact
So
same.
you get money for every win as well, or a draw. So if you go in the, I don't.
You would still rather Europa League because it is a bigger achievement and but I think financially is the most important thing for Scottish clubs getting in Europe. So
It's
if you can
different.
pick up a couple of wins in the Conference League and it makes up any fee, then that's the most important.
Also, imagine you get all the groups in the conference.
Yeah, listen. See, the thing is, you're not going to get easy teams in any of the group stages.
Even our potential teams to qualify.
I know.
We've probably got the good end of the draw and we're still having to go to Norway.
It was like Rosenborg, Fenerbahce,
Rosenborg.
Club Brugge, and that's for Europa League Europa Conference qualifier. So you're going to get difficult teams. But I was going to say, you, Matty, I think one thing with Lee Johnson, a couple of times in interviews last season, he did bring up a couple of times about needing players or needing players out. I think now it's his squad. It's got to be his squad. He signed 8 already this year. I think, what did they finish with, 10 signings throughout the season last year? So I think he's going into this season with his squad now, so there's not really any excuses.
Aye, you're spot on, and it's a total shift in the like the policies. So last season it was all like development players that we're bringing in. This season they've gone in for established players. Spent a lot of money. I think they've just signed a player of the night, a big Dutch striker for about 800,000 or 900,000. It's just huge money
He's
for
got a good
Hibs.
record, to be fair.
So-
It's like 44 goals in the last couple of seasons.
Aye, something like that. So we had Ewan, we've got Will Fish back, got Dylan Levitt for Dundee United. We've got Martin Boyle coming back. I mean, the squad's looking no bad. So Johnson's really not got very many excuses if he doesn't start well.
How long do you think he gets, Lee Johnson, if it isn't a good start?
Probably
That October, as you said?
Aye.
Yeah.
It was, yeah, because I think if we go into the difficult, like the more difficult games, they're all difficult, but the more difficult games and take a couple of hidings there, there'll be no coming back for that.
He's win the return leg. He's win the home tie surely against this team.
Oh, I would think so.
Aye.
Touch wood, obviously.
If it don't, then he'll be the first.
How do you see Hibs' season going, Kev?
Now that he's mentioned of some of the names that he's signed and players coming back from injury like last year, like Boyle missing him, and obviously I think the signing of Levitt is a good. Like I think Hibs actually could do all right this year. Where do they finish? I think probably 6th.
Well, that isn't a good season for Hibs, so is it?
It's not, it's top 6, but they're obviously pushing for third or fourth. But I just feel that Aberdeen will be strong. Hearts normally are strong, and they've always got one up on you. I'm sorry to say that, but it's just you know yourself. And then I don't know. I think I maybe see like Kilmarnock or Motherwell sneaking in there.
Wow. Kilmarnock had the
That's you
Hibs.
jinxed.
Kilmarnock's my dark horse this year.
I think so.
I don't know. I just think Kilmarnock
Be very surprised if Kelly finish above Hibs.
Think so?
Nah, I don't think they'll finish above Hibs, but I think they're my top 6
I will
outside
finish
bet this year.
6-5.
I got a question, Matty.
Aye, it's about David Marshall. So Marshall had a few mistakes in him last season and he chucked one in on Thursday. Do you think it's time for Hibs to replace him?
Aye.
Love
Did they not
Marshy,
sign
mate.
two
I feel
goals?
so bad. I love
Signed
Marshy.
2 goals, huh?
Aye. He started on Thursday, so we brought in the boy Boric and Wallacott.
On Marshall, I'm like you. I remember the back end of last season, he did let in a couple of howlers, and you thought, right, okay, but it started that way again. And like David Marshall's been an unbelievable goalkeeper for his whole career. Like, I'm not going to take anything away from how good he's been, but he's out of an age that some of us don't get to. But he's maybe retirement might be a thing, or maybe it's just a lapse of concentration that he can fix himself. Do you know what I mean? He probably still believes that he's good enough to be playing for Hibs and at that level, and it's just maybe I don't know. But I think if they've already signed, was it 2 goalkeepers?
Aye. See, for the outside looking in, I think if you're taking somebody off the captaincy, it's because they're not going to play this year.
Aye.
Yeah.
And then if you've signed 2 goalkeepers on top of that, chances are one of these boys might end up number 1. But
they've signed 2 goalkeepers and they've still played David Marshall. So what does that tell you about the 2 goalkeepers?
I think it's one of
signed?
these goalkeepers are a funny position where you didn't often see managers changing keepers without a reason, and I think because like the career that Marshall's had, he's probably been given the respect to start this season as the number 1, with the view that we'll wait till he makes a mistake and then change it, and he probably wasn't expecting, or Johnson wasn't expecting him to have made that mistake in the first game that we had.
So see the goalkeepers they have signed. Have you seen them? Have they been in action?
So Wallacott played on Saturday. We lost 3-0 to Blackpool, but we put a development team for that game, so you can't really read too much into that one. I've not seen Boric yet.
I think we'll probably find that one of them will end up
Start
number
of the
1.
season. Yeah.
Right.
Good.
On to Hearts. Firstly, Andy, how's pre-season been under the wee man? Easy.
Under the wee man.
I'm only joking.
Gold dust for the wrestling. That's how he looks like.
Enjoyable, generally really enjoyable. I think a lot's been said about the sort of lack of transfer activity we've had, but
I've been surprised with that, Andy, to be honest.
potentially. But I think if you're going into a season and you say that Benny Beningame, Craig Halkett and Craig Gordon and Liam Boyce are new signings, you think, what are some of they've had? And they will feel like new signings to us because they never played at all throughout the end of last season. So I still think that there's going to be more to come. I think it's already mentioned that 2 are coming in this week. I think the Japanese striker and the Costa Rican winger. So I think we'll probably be one of the busier teams for now at the end of the window. But no, it's been good. I've enjoyed it. So.
Ginelli a massive loss, mate.
It will be, because I think he is we'll probably know blessed with a lot of pace throughout our squad, and he was the one that did make that difference. He was the one that was always trying to pull on the shoulder, running behind. I think he scored 10 goals in the last 17 games of the season, so a brilliant return. But it seems as if these 2 boys that are coming in, that's the sort of their profile. You know, it's direct pace, playing the shoulder, running behind. So I think they've obviously identified that as an area we can improve.
Is Craig Gordon back and starting?
He's back light training, so I think I still imagine he's got a sort of
back light.
no, so I think he's still a couple of months away, I'd imagine. But
Okay, because I think one of the big things injury-wise was Craig Gordon. Xander Clark did not kick on the way I thought he might when he went there.
Oh, really?
I think so. I thought
I
Xander
don't
was
know,
good,
right?
to be fair, aye.
I'm like you. I'm no
I
convinced
actually
with Xander.
think you did really well when you were in Europe and
Xander-
playing
I
twice.
thought Xander Clark was
I'm
good.
no
Yeah.
convinced.
And when you went out of Europe and didn't have to play twice a week, that's when I actually felt a bit. And I must have been in. Craig Gordon's injury was bad.
I think Craig Halkett's going to be a massive bonus, because I think their centre halves are really good, but I think he is the real out and out defender. I think he's like a big old fashioned aggressive centre halves, and I think last season one of their biggest weaknesses was set pieces, and I think somebody like Halks is going to be a big difference with that. The boy Frankie Kent that comes in, he sort of fits that
good,
mould.
doesn't
He's looked really good so far. I know he's only been in sort of a week or so, but he's looked really good, so he'll be a bonus.
So it will be a hard decision though for Frankie McAvoy. Who's going to play, Shankland or Boyce? Or I'm going to ask you, Kev, as a striker, can they 2 play together?
I think you can. Well, those 2 I think
Very
are quite
similar, aren't they?
Because Boyce likes to come deep, receive the ball, link the play up. Shankland likes to do that.
He's been playing in the 10, Shankland, didn't he?
No, so and then obviously with losing Ginelli, that's your pace up front that gets in behind. So I don't know, it'd be quite interesting.
They are both very good though.
No, they are both very good, and I think they probably could potentially play together. What you're losing though is that threat in behind with a bit of pace, or do you
maybe come for the sides though?
That was the case last season. They did start as kind of two with Boyce supporting Shankland, and we've still got Barry Mackay to come back into the equation, and Liam Boyce brings on Barry Mackay's game no ends, in my opinion.
Well, it's good that you're on that because you want to change at your club. How do you feel about the new look setup?
Again, Andy's probably hit the nail on the head, whereby it's been a lack of transfer activity. I think the fans just need to calm down a wee bit, to be honest. I don't think it's as bad as most make out, and I know that's rich, not overreact from me, but I do think everybody just needs to just see what happens. I mean, boys are getting written off before they've even kicked a ball. The likes of Frankie Kent, the Aussie centre mid, supposedly both very good in the game against Leeds, so I think we'll be fine. I really do. I don't see where most of the negativity and the worry comes from.
See on Hearts, do they, after last pre-season, I remember them signing loads of bodies and then they had loads of injuries. Do Hearts need to get rid of a few first before they can bring in some incoming? Because I feel, Andy Beattie tells, they must have a big squad.
He's one of the ones that trying to get rid of.
One or two in midfield. No, right now, we're quite light just now because there is still a couple of injuries.
But light in terms of, you've lost Ginnelly. Who else have you lost?
Michael Smith's a big loss in terms of what he's given the club, but again, didn't really play. And Nathaniel Atkinson, for me, still a bit suspect. I'd like to see a right back, definitely.
Seven left in the summer, but 4 of them never really played.
And then there was loans. What is Halliday back to?
But they were part of the 7.
Right.
That's what I mean. So I think right now we look light because there still is boys to come back for injuries, but the likes of Barry Mackay is probably a couple of weeks away max, and then obviously there's going to be another couple in this week. So I think in terms of the size of the squad, they'll be fine. See, if you asked everyone last season, they'd all said Hearts' squad. What a squad they've got, quality wise, depth wise. You've only lost 7. We've already brought in 3. There's going to be another 2 this week. So in terms of numbers, it's not really going to be any different.
No.
What have you made of the interviews, especially that one that was on Sky as a Hearts fan?
What do I make of it? It's just a loophole, isn't it? That's the bottom line. I think, in my personal opinion, it is Stephen Naismith's team. It is just a really bizarre situation. And even sort of the way that Hearts announced it, the wording of it and the statement, it just was a bit iffy.
Is this something they should have looked at before they got rid of Robbie Neilson and appointed Stephen Naismith as manager?
Potentially, but then who else was out there?
So do you think Stephen Naismith and Frankie McAvoy together a step up for Robbie Neilson, Lee McCulloch team?
I think they got more out of the squad toward the end of last season than in the 6, 7, 8 games previous. So potentially, yeah.
Adam, have you got a question for the panel?
Yes, Erin sort of alluded to it earlier on, but I want to ask, obviously the West Coast media unsurprisingly can't get their heads around the fact that Hearts would want to look after their own and have as many Jambos in at Tynecastle as is possible. What's your guys' stance? Because to me, the only team, and I'm sure Matty will agree, that should get the entirety of the Roseburn stand is Hibernian and nobody else.
I don't understand the hilarity around it, to be honest. If you're a club and you can sell the amount of season tickets that you have, then why would you give them up? Listen, I don't think I've ever seen Pittodrie full, so we're talking about full stadiums then.
This is what we're after.
But so, listen, what was it? 15,000 early sales was the season tickets.
I mean, Aberdeen's record is 10, so you've got to give them a bit of leeway.
No, actually, our record, we've never done 10 for the season.
Oh, wow.
12.5, so you've still got 2,500 to go, so hopefully that comes on the next cut.
They are massive.
But there's more teams than Edinburgh and Aberdeen.
It's a one-team city.
See, as long as the stadium, I always think, as long as the stadiums for every club is full or as close to full capacity as possible, then work around dishing out away tickets for there. That's my opinion. I think it was at St Mirren last year that they had the sort of lockout for Old Firm fans, even though their stadium wasn't. I don't really get that because, again, it's fans coming to the game.
That was quite funny though.
It's more supporters at the stadium, but I think, like you said, 15,000 early sale season tickets, then you're not going to give up an away section if you've got fans wanting tickets, are you?
Kev?
No, I'm on Andy's side. I just think that a club the size of Hearts, 15,000 season tickets, why would you give anybody more? Is there not a waiting list for season tickets or something?
7,000 allegedly, but...
How many?
7,000 allegedly.
I think that's a fabricated number.
Just a touch.
Aye, that's the budgie speaking there, but No, for me, I think I'm on that. I get why Rangers and Celtic are doing it. That's more just bitterness between each other and stupidity. But for me, I think Hearts are entitled to do it because, like you say, I don't think every away allocation ever gets filled.
Right, we're on to the Dundee, the new boy. Big round of applause for the mullet. How have you found it so far, mate? You enjoying it?
What, Dundee or the mullet?
No, this fucking thing that you're on now.
I'm enjoying it.
What a man. Gary Bowyer, how did you feel? Obviously, you led your promotion. How did you feel when you heard that he was gone?
It's just batshit crazy, isn't it? I can imagine everyone else looking from outside thinking, what the fuck's going on there? But we kind of saw it coming a little bit because there was rumours about it about Christmas time that Bowyer had lost contact with the higher ups. They weren't even speaking to each other anymore. So the rumour kind of started that regardless where Dundee finish, whether they go up or down, that he was going to be out the door. And evidently this has proved to be the case. So I think their thinking was maybe that they felt that Bowyer, because we won it on 63 points. So I think a record low. I think their thinking was that he hadn't won it convincingly enough, as weird as it might sound, but I think that's kind of my view of it and how the way I understand it anyway.
And then a bit of left field appointment with Tony Dock taking off. I never seen that coming, did you?
Nah, never in a million years would have seen that coming, no. But it's quite funny because see, when you look at Dundee's record of appointing managers, they tend to go for the kind of young and up and coming managers, like your Neil McCann, James McPake, etc. Then the more experienced ones that have came in to try and steady the ship, like Jim McIntyre and Mark McGee, end up being an abysmal appointments in both their cases. So it's like they've kind of found a way to split in between the middle, because Docherty he's a manager of the first ever time, but yet over 350 games of experience as an assistant manager. Yep. So it's like they've managed to, like I say, find a way like right down the middle. And personally, I actually feel it's quite a low risk appointment.
You think it's a good appointment?
I do. I think it's a really good appointment. I think it's smart. I think he's worked under a guy that's had a lot of success in Scottish football. For me, it was a no-brainer, to be honest.
Great guy, Tony Docherty. I've got a lot of time for him. Meant to be a really good coach as well.
Yep, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely a loss for Kelly and Derek McInnes, but it's nice to see somebody that's been an assistant for so long take that opportunity or being given an opportunity. And I hope it works out well for him, because like I say, I've played against a couple of St Johnstone teams back in the time with Derek, and always found him like approachable, and he would always compliment you and stuff, and I just think that he sounds like a good guy in football, and kind of hope that he does well. So
how do Dundee fans feel about Gordon Strachan, the kind of role he's got at Dundee? Because Tony Dock worked with Gordon Strachan at Scotland, didn't it? So if you put two and two together, it looked like it was a Gordon Strachan appointment.
Yeah, you'd think you'd be delighted because it ticks the boxes that they're hiring someone, they know how he works, they know what his mind's like, etc. But the fans, I think there's a bit of division. Some of them haven't really warmed up to Strachan since he came. I personally, I've warmed up to Strachan immediately. I think it's a great appointment for the club. And his role, there's a bit of a... It's not really certain what his role was, because initially it was just for the youth academy. And then there was an article about how he was going to be promoted to director of football at the end of the season. We got relegated, but it was never made official by the club. So no one still really knows what he does, but just know that he was obviously behind the last two appointments in Bowyer and Docherty.
Where do you sit with that with Strachan?
I think anybody with the experience that he has sitting on your upstairs, I think it can only be a good thing, because he's been there and done it in this league. Obviously had a great footballing career himself, and I think he obviously done really, really well at Celtic. So he has the experience, and he's always somebody like a kind of go-to guy for information. Experience, you'll know what that's like, Simon. You're asking, you're quite tell us a lot that you'll speak to older managers that you've worked with in the past for advice and stuff like that.
See, that fucking worked well, eh?
Aye, it didn't work out.
Am I not right in saying, when Gordon Strachan first went and made Dundee, he was still doing a bit of work for Celtic though? I think, was that quite a lot of what the fans were displeased about?
I don't think he does that anymore.
No, exactly. And then so now it's
3 months or something.
Aye. No, listen, I've worked under him, and I usually know what I think of him in terms of his... When he was my coach, I thought he was brilliant. So,
it's not every board has a great knowledge of football. A lot of boards have a great knowledge of business.
Yeah.
So to have somebody on your board or whatever it is that has that gap between the manager to you to have an understanding. I remember when Anne Budge was in at Tynecastle in the early days, she brought in Craig Levine, and Craig Levine would just rock up and tell Anne Budge, we need this, we need that. And because she didn't know, basically gave Craig Levine the reign of everything. And then when they got Jim Jeffries in, he was that guy that was able to say, no, we don't need this person and we don't need that person, that role. So it's like, I think it's a good thing, because sometimes these guys can pull the wool over owners' eyes. We need this X, Y and Z, when really, do you?
I've actually seen Dundee live this year. I went to the Airdrie game last week.
Oh, fuck's sake.
Which wasn't a great result, but It wasn't a great result, but I was impressed with a couple of individuals, to be fair.
Who'd you like?
Cameron Lyle, I thought was really good. And I like the boy that signed the boy that was at Queen's Park last year, the boy Boateng.
Middle of the pitch,
I like
made a
Tiff,
good
he's a
player.
great signing.
Tiffany's good signing. So what would success look like for Dundee this season? Staying in the league, or are you looking for more?
Staying in the league, because obviously it's something we've not been able to do strongly, is maintain our position in the Premiership consistently. It's always squad overhauls and then shit hits the fan. So I think if they can just maintain their league status and then build on that, that's success, at least in the short term.
Joe Shaughnessy, a good signing as well, eh?
A lot of experience, and of course worked under Docherty as well. So
what's the early signs been like in the Viaplay trophy thing that's been going on?
No, great, because they never qualified, eh?
I know, but
finished second place with 9 points.
Has the performance has been good, or
I missed the Airdrie game, but based on Dumbarton and Inverness, it's like we play really good football in spells, but overall, obviously, it's just a bit rusty, isn't it? Because it's still kind of like a pre-season. But yeah, I think, like Andy says, there's a couple of individuals that really catch the eye. The two big two for me was Scott Tiffany and we have a left back on loan from Liverpool, Owen Beck, player.
That got quite a lot was made of that when he signed, to say it was a great signing. I think if you Liverpool fans,
he didn't play the Airdrie game, did he? It was a young boy. Wilkie?
Yeah, it was Jack Wilkie, Lee Wilkie's son, that played that game because Beck was injured. But yeah, you're right, because normally when an English boy comes to a Scottish team, you get the typical like rated very highly kind of quote, and that's it. But in Beck's case, there's a genuine quote from Jurgen Klopp saying this boy's a super talent. So that kind of got fans thinking, oh, here we go then. It's a bit something different, isn't it?
The excited life at me, Dundee.
Did they really?
Aye, the boy that you had at he's a
Lyle Cameron, very good player, and Josh Mulligan as well.
Josh Mulligan, aye,
good boys,
a lot of good players there.
Lyle won, hadn't never happened before. He won a hat trick of Player of the Year awards at Dundee at the end of last season.
Yeah, he's a great kid. He could do well in the game. You got a question?
Yeah. So just as I said there, with Tony Docherty having his experience mainly as a coach and assistant manager prior to becoming his own man, have you guys ever worked under an assistant manager or a coach where you thought at that point, he's going to make it, he's going to become a manager somewhere and get going?
I had one last year.
Do you know the best assistant I've ever seen? He never went. Andy Millen. He was honestly, even still to this day, the amount of people
being a manager.
Aye, the amount of people who speak about him, go to him for advice. And when he spoke at Ayr, honestly, he was out of this world. And I don't know, I've actually never asked him why he doesn't take that step.
Because I was the same when I was at Ayr with Andy Millen, and I was that was my last club. You just sit there and wonder, why has this guy never been a manager? Because he's so well respected by everybody that ever comes, and his training isn't he of the profile the way Andy Millen rants and raves on the touchline and dressing rooms, because the guy's a fucking lunatic, I swear to God, but his training's like, I would say it's quite technical, it's quite fast paced, it's short, sharp stuff, it's no anything I thought I would expect from Andy Millen, but it was like, I was like, oh God, I honestly said that if I've ever got an opportunity in football, like coaching wise or a manager's role somewhere, when I gave it a long time ago when I thought about this, but that's somebody I would go to say, would you help me? And I think that's been shown in Andy Millen's career, that Dougie Imries took him at Morton, and there's other people took him here there because they've been so in awe by him. Obviously, he was with Gus McPherson.
He's with Gus for years.
St Mirren for years. So again, I would agree with Slaney. Andy Millen's probably one of the best assistants that I've ever seen.
And best guys as well.
What about Mark Venus with Tony Mowbray?
I know.
Tony Mowbray would be speaking, and Mark Venus would be behind him, just shaking his head, disagreeing with everything that he said.
Two completely different people as well.
That was strange. Good that we're on this, because we'll move on to Kilmarnock. Is that a worry that Derek McInnes has lost his trusted lieutenant?
In a sense, but he's obviously promoted from within with Paul Sheeran, who's just as trusted, and he was just as important a cog in that operation. And obviously Alan Archibald is coming in. He's a first team coach now, so he's been replaced quite well, I think. But it will be strange seeing McInnes without Docherty.
Yeah. Have you got the same aspirations as the boys' top six?
That worry you that three dafties like us think Kilmarnock will do well?
Aye. No, it's good to be confident, but I don't think McInnes etc. would thank you for Kelly being tipped to get top six. I think the fans would agree maybe in the sense that a nice 8th place, comfortable finish, don't worry about relegation. You'd bite your hand off for that after last season.
You've been impressed with the recruitment, haven't you?
Oh my God, unbelievable. 6th place is nailed on for me. Stu Finlay, outstanding. Matty Kennedy, out wide.
Ali Watkins, Kel McGuinness for Hibs, which I was surprised that.
They are good signings,
It's brilliant. And then you've got obviously Delage, who's just I think top manager.
See, now that they're in the league, Jink Dello, I think it was kind of just surviving last year. Do you think you'll see maybe a more attacking brand of football with the signings that he's made?
Potentially. I think the big thing was, as everybody knows, last season we pretty much had the team for the championship because a lot of the guys were signed in 2-year deals. So similar to maybe to Lee Johnston, it's McInnes's team this season. Yeah. So I think you can fully judge him for now. In terms of attacking, I don't know, possibly because the likes of Kennedy comes in to complement Armstrong on the other side. Yeah. You know, you've got the two outlets either side, and Vassell will be kind of leading the line up front, and you have the likes of Marley Watkins coming in and potentially off the bench or playing behind Vassell. So potentially,
yeah,
life at me.
Exciting life at you. So you're going top 6?
I think 6.
Yours as well.
My dark horse, whether that means top 6 or a 7th.
I would like to see them. I'd like to see them have a more comfortable season.
I think that's what the fans would be happy with. You know, maybe be in the mix, looking to get top 6, but if they just miss out, but there's no relegation.
Is Big Ash Taylor still staying?
No, he's away to Bradford.
So I was thinking, with Ash Taylor leaving, you lose that threat from set pieces, corners, and free kicks and stuff. But by bringing in Stu Finlay,
I would argue
the big boy was a big boy for Inverness.
Robbie D's there as well. Robbie D's good signing as well.
Stu's already scored a couple of goals already in the league, hasn't he?
He scored on Saturday there, and he scored against Wraith. So he was like that, and this is his 4th spell at Killie. But one of the other ones, you know, he scored a late winner against Celtic and a late winner at Tynecastle. So he is there for the big moments, a bit like Taylor was last season. So
you got a question, big man?
One of the guys have kind of touched on it. I think it was Adam at Hearts. You know, Killie, they've posted that there was no losses for cutting the old firm allocation. Do you think that would inspire other teams to potentially follow suit and see that it isn't all doom and gloom if you do kind of prioritise your own?
There's Ticketmaster over there. On you go, mate.
So, Kilmarnock, explain that to me again quickly to get my head.
So obviously Celtic and Rangers used to get both stands behind the goals. Now it's just one, but you know,
I just always think that by giving Celtic and Rangers like 2-3 stands, you're not making that a home game anymore. You're making that their home game because they've got the majority of noise, the majority of fans, and 99% out of 100. Celtic and Rangers will probably take points off these teams in their home grounds, but if you try and make it more difficult for them, maybe grab that early goal, and if you've got to pack 3 stands to their 1 and get the noise, how would the Celtic players feel like that? Because they've never really experienced that unless they go to Aberdeen or Hearts or Celtic, or to Celtic to a point, because they have the majority. But whereas with Kilmarnock and St Mirren obviously cut it as well, but Livy's notorious. It's like it's green and white everywhere. I don't even know if there's any Livy fans go to the games.
We're taking Anfield.
You go, but I think it would be positive if it's not going to cost you anything or lose anything. Then I would like to see more Kilmarnock fans in than Celtic.
I think a big thing is it's the goodwill of the fans. You know, since then season tickets have been up, merch sales have been up, everything. There's just so much goodwill about the club. You know,
if it's like Aberdeen with Alan Burrows explaining things. If you, as a Kilmarnock football club, explain why you're doing it, but you may need a wee bit of help in other avenues of the club to bring in revenue, fans will jump onto that to help it.
I think Bowie came out and said that at the time. You know, it's a big decision, a big call, but he did kind of call on the fans.
Yes.
If we sell X amount of season tickets and sell X amount of strips, it'll work out, and it has over the kind of last 5 years.
I would agree with that.
As a player, though, would you not rather have a full stadium, regardless of who it is, to kind of boost your
no,
get you going?
Absolutely.
I would.
Oh,
I wouldn't want a half full stadium. But if it meant that Kilmarnock got more fans in the door, more home fans in the door, brilliant.
See on that, Andy, like going to like so say you're playing with Kilmarnock, hearsay, and there's 3 stands of Celtic fans, and you're playing with Kilmarnock with 1 stand of Kilmarnock fans. You're 4-0 down. You're enjoying that?
Well,
Celtic fans singing.
You're not enjoying it if you're 4 down in the
Killie, wait, no, can I just say Killie cut the allocation and they were 5 down after half an hour this year?
I know, but I just think they've got to have more of their own fans to give themselves more of a...
No, but that's what I mean. If it meant that Killie got an extra 5,000 home support, brilliant. But if it still leads to the Old Firm are getting 1 stand and you've got half a capacity stadium, you might not cut allocations, but you're still technically losing out money because you might have got a couple more thousand, but if you've then cut 4,000 Old Firm, it's still, you balanced it, but it's still no. Do you know what I'm saying?
It's the money against the optics of it, though, because if you have 4 stands and you sell 3 to Celtic or Rangers, that is a home game then for them.
Three stands are a bit much. That is the Livy Classic, isn't it?
But it does. I mean,
Thanks to that as well.
Well, we're taking 4.5. We are a really, really good away support. I think we are brilliant. But I have been to games where clubs have sold us so many. Livy will be like this on Saturday. It is a home game. And I think it does help. At one point, when we got our teams, our away record was brilliant. And I can kind of see it. There was a headline about us that's been really badly reported to make it sound like we're doing this and we're not. What we're doing for games like County, Livy, St Mirren, instead of having it empty because they'll sell a couple of hundred, especially if it's like a Wednesday night, we're going to take the fence down and sell more to our home fans. We're not cutting anything else. But I think if I was a Livy fan, I would probably rather have our stadium half empty and less cash.
And you're playing Rangers, so Davies actually standing with a Rangers scarf on it.
But from our point of view, like last season and seasons before, Celtic and Rangers fans were even in the home end, and it was getting a bit ridiculous. The club did take a stance that it was only home fans that would be in the home stand, which is, a start. But for us to go and shut 2 stands and offer Celtic or Rangers 1, for us, our finances, Davies mentioned something about the budget before. It's just nonsensical, because the reality is we don't have 5,000-6,000 fans that are waiting to get in. So for us, it's a business decision. You look at Kilmarnock, obviously it's worked out in their favour. I think St Mirren as well, their average attendance for the season was up, having only given the Old Firm 1 stand. So, but the difference is they've got the supports to kind of back up potentially making that decision, whilst we just don't.
Aye, Livy can't afford to do it because of the finances they're operating with.
Right, we're on to the main man.
Gogsy boy, Van Veen, he's away. How gutted are you, mate? And how damaging it could it be this season?
Well, I was gutted, but like if you'd asked me before, like I'd happily had him for the remainder of his contract, because I think what we got for him is not equating to 29 goals. The value for a club the size of Motherwell, 29 goals from one player is absolutely monumental, and to have only got between 500 and 700,000 for him, it's for me, I was like, just keep him. But when you see Groningen were reportedly giving him 10 grand a week for his troubles, you can't just stand in the way of that. That's life-changing money for him.
I was a bit surprised they went there. Is that the second division? Is that the second division?
Yeah, they've just been relegated from the Eredivisie, so with their parachute payment from the top division, I think they're going to be going all out to get promoted again.
I think we talked about that in one of the forums last year, about what could a Scottish club achieve for somebody that's, and obviously the age of Van Veen, his background in terms of what he did before he came to Motherwell. I think what you got was very good. And it kind of just shows the finances of Scottish football when Motherwell has to accept 500 to 700,000 for a 29 goal a season striker. It's desperate times really when you think about it. Like 500 grand, you would think a club of that size could manage without that, but clearly they can't. So.
Yeah.
Max Johnson's another massive loss as well.
Absolutely. That was a very poor decision by the club to not even extend his contract before his loan to Cove Rangers last season, because same happened with Jake Hasty. Players on their last year of their deals have gone out on loan for 6 months to be ready for the first team, and then they've played out their skin for the second half of the season, and then we've let them go on just the development fee, and it's nowhere near good enough. And you see a lot of clubs down south offering like 4 or 5 year deals to players who are young and going out on loan and getting experience, coming back and being ready for the first team, like say Mason Mount, who's now at Man United obviously. But at our level, we should be, I think we should be taking more risks on youth, because you look at how good the Scotland team is now, like you should be developing players to actually be ready to be in the national team for 5 years' time.
They've done magic on young Lennon Miller. He's looked at him.
Yeah, sensational. He's like new David Turnbull, if you want me to say that. But like the way he plays, like he just swaggers about the park. Yes, we've been playing Elgin City and Queen of the South over the last few weeks, but like he's genuinely looked like the best player in the park 3 out of 4 games.
Do you think he'll start the season midfield?
I would play him. Yeah, like he's not put a foot wrong yet, so why not? I mean, if you're good enough, you're old enough.
The manager doesn't sound happy with the recruitment, Gogs. Yeah, I've seen a couple of interviews.
I don't think anyone's happy at Motherwell with the recruitment. I mean, I've got here, we're into the double figures for players that have gone out, and then we've brought in only 5. I mean, we've got Obika and Wilkinson, who are both forwards who are very similar in terms of style. Papswari, who's got World Cup experience and played in an FA Cup final 5 years ago. Davor Zdravkovsky from Cyprus, we got him in, and Dan Casey re-signed. So, like, it's been slow, but I think it's been the same for quite a few of us in terms of recruitment, and it just shows
how hard it is.
How hard it is. I think the quality of our league outside the top five's kind of dwindling.
Actually, on novice recruitment, you'll probably be able to tell us a bit more related to it, Simon. The budget and market that
I'll not be able to tell you.
Just listen. The budget and market that Motherwell's in, along with the other clubs similar to Motherwell, is it like obviously East Kilbride, you're obviously assistant there. You're all trying to get the same types of players for the same types of money.
Yeah.
And it's difficult because do I move from here to there for no much more than what I'm getting, and it's going to cost me more money to move there? I think it's a difficult market that Motherwell's in, because how do you attract people to far part to say like English League 2, because I would imagine that's some of the level, or maybe some from League 1.
Yeah.
How do you get them to move from England to Scotland to change their like living habits and stuff to come to Scotland for no much more money? It's not as if you're saying, come to Motherwell, we'll double your salary. It's just not going to happen.
Sometimes it's less money as well.
Aye.
Like we've sold players a dream of we've got the platform of going to the Old Firm maybe 3 times a season, and you can play there. And if you play well, you'll potentially get a move to another bigger club. And say, is
there a rule on like a loan market league, like in terms of how many loans you can have? Is it better for Motherwells and stuff to try and bring in a vast variety of loan players? Because like you think of all the big clubs in England, how many players they have on their books? Surely the loan market must be a better option, no?
I think so. I think we've been linked with a move for a young boy from Arsenal, as well as quite a few other forwards in the last few days, and I think that's the best thing we can do, really, because I mean we can't really spend money, because we're not, even though we brought in nearly $1 million for Van Veen and Johnson, like most of that we're not going to actually see again.
Yep. Surprised Motherwell never went for the types like Kyle Turner that went to Ross County, who was at Thistle last year. Thought that would be a no-brainer. Tiffany, who went to Dundee. Another one at Motherwell.
I was saying we should have signed the likes of Kyle Turner when he was at Dunfermline, because I've seen him, because I used to live in Fife. I saw Dunfermline a few times, and like he looked like one of their best players. And genuinely, we are missing out on quite a few good prospects because we just don't look low down enough.
See, when it comes to the loan market, though, you quite often find it is the end of the transfer window that loan signings end up happening, because you are trying to get the sort of permanent transfers first. So I think Motherwell, along with us at Hearts, I think will be 2 of the busier clubs towards the end of the transfer window.
I believe so.
I'm really worried about Martindale this year. And Livingston, I mean, Nicky leaving. I don't know what you think, mate, but the way the run went at the end of last season, you'd think they'll need to recruit well. That's just not happened at all, is it?
I just wanted the season to be over. From February onwards, we just fell off a cliff. We were sitting 4th at the end of January, and ever since the cup defeat to Inverness, just it was dire. I think it was 8 away defeats on the bounce, no goals scored. As I say, you just wanted to get an end to the season. And look, at the end of the day, finishing 8th last year is a good season. But I think it's just the manner in which it happened. So, we were coming into this season, and I think everyone has probably the idea that this is going to be our first struggle this year. And I think that's part of the reason why Davey's talking about the budget as much as he is, because I think he's almost trying to... Last year I came on here and said I think he overhyped us a little bit, and he put the media pressure on us like, they're a certainty for top 6, they're challenging for Europe. Whilst this year I think he's going the opposite way, and I think he's trying to keep the expectation levels down. And to be honest, I think that's probably the right thing to do, because we don't have a lot of fans, but some of them are bampots, and I think we should be pushing for a lot higher than we the reality is that we should be kind of looking to just stay in the league each season. But
is this the first year you've thought seriously you could go down?
I think it's the first year we're going to be in a scrap. I think we'll have enough to stay up. I was chatting to David today for our podcast, and I think the point he was making is we were too soft last year. And I mean, I think any of you guys who watch us or listen, any media stuff, it's all about Livy have been really hard to beat. It's always really difficult going to Livy. It wasn't last year. We were a soft touch, set plays. The big thing about us being great at set plays for the last 3 or 4 seasons, we've been one of the worst teams in the league. So Davies obviously wanting to make a change of that. He's going to a back 3, brought in Mikey Devlin, which on paper, if you can get him on the pitch, would be a really good signing. It wasn't that long ago that Steve Clark had him in Scotland squads. So if we can get him fit, I think he'll make a difference. He's been appointed captain already, so obviously Davey thinks very highly of him for the season. But yeah, we've kept the vast majority of the squad we've had the last 2 years, and that's a team that's finished 7th and 8th last 2 seasons. So it's not, yes, we might have not had a lot of players maybe coming in, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing.
You talk about each club having that bit of luck. I think Livy's bit of luck is keeping Joe Nobley fit, because you know that run for February, he missed quite a lot of games. And I think he's massive to these. I really do. I think he's that different dimension. You talk about set pieces as well, defensively, offensively. He's a big threat for that as well. And I think keeping him fit is going to be a. Is Bruce Anderson still there? There was talks of him leaving.
There was an offer from.
Still get many strikers, don't you? So.
Aye, we've got Bruce, and then Curtis Guthrie's essentially the backup, really. But Bruce was linked with a club in Georgia. We accepted an offer, I believe, round about a couple 100,000. But I mean, a boy for Banff living in Georgia, he's no moving there. So he's got a year left on his deal. If he scores double figures this year, he's getting a much better move than that. So, but with Noobs, you could say it about the entire squad last year, second half of last season. I don't think he was as good as maybe people made out, and that's probably part of the reason he's still here and nobody's came in for him. So again, he's 28. He's got a year. He's not got that massive kind of resale value for a club. So yeah, I think if we keep all those players, if we keep Newbley, if we keep Anderson, I think we'll have enough to stay up this year. But I do think it's going to be a lot tighter for us.
Have you got a question for the panel?
Yeah, obviously Davies made a big point about the budget. See, for you guys, if Livingston were coming in for you, for example, and Davies been saying, I can't afford this, I can't afford that, are you guys even interested in speaking to the club if you're hearing the finances are that tight in terms of wage package?
You've got to go and ask the question. Yeah. You've got to come in, listen to what he's got to offer you, and then say what you. And usually 9 times out of 10, if you're not too far apart, you can make a deal. But is Davey realistically trying to get players in on 500 to 800 quid a week? Is that what he's trying to do? Because I don't think that's going to work.
I think kind of standard wage is probably, I'd say, $1,000.
Aye,
I think on the
a few players on higher than that. Newbley's and that they'll be higher, but I think there might be some good talent in the Scottish leagues that they're maybe ignoring lower down that Davey could have taken.
See, the problem with that is clubs say like Ross County getting the boy Kyle Turner. I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe looked at that. But the thing is, all these clubs can offer a much better wage packet than we can. We were in for Robbie Dees. I think he'd been in the building twice to speak to Davey. Thought he had him wrapped up, and Kilmarnock had probably absolutely trumped us in terms of a wage packet for him. So yes, we have looked to try and get guys from the Scottish leagues, but our shopping market's like National League down south, and it's
a tough job.
That's the sort of market you're working in.
That's small.
We got a wee insight of Derek McInnes last year. We had him on the podcast just as the season was starting. He says 3 players that he went to try and sign, but Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen wanting the same 3 players, and they're offering him double the money that he can offer them. That's the problem you get managing these clubs. You need to try and find hidden gems or look at the lower market, but it's really tough.
See, a question for you two, right? So obviously with the Broomhill in the league last year, with the Lowland League, and you've seen sort of Lowland, West of Premier, do you think there is talent in the leagues that could make a step up to a club at Livy?
I think that I was
with full-time training, obviously. It
was a lot better than I kind of imagined it before we went in. There's a lot of good players, but to go to like the top league, I probably don't think so. For that low, but I think sort of Championship, maybe League One, there is a lot of good players.
Nah, again, I'd agree. I think it's a big jump. I think even thinking for the team that I took last year, my Peterhead team, the difference would be quite substantial. I do look at the Peterhead team and think there was players that could have played in the SPL. We had guys like Scott Brown, who's now the captain of Wraith, Grant Savoury, who's the best player at Queen's Park last year. I thought there and then, at League One level, they could go and make the step up to the Premier League. But like you said, maybe that is where Livy. I mean, I've never seen a Livy scout at a Peterhead game. But you never know. You might find a hidden gem. Like I say, Scott Brown, Grant Savoury, if these Premier League.
That's because Davies the scout.
I definitely think League One. upwards. I think there is talent that could go and play in the SPL. I look at Harry Milne, who was at Cove last year. He was Partick Thistle's best player.
Well,
there is talent there.
I think a good example of the West in the Lowland is the boy Josh Fowler, who was the top scorer.
Ross Stewart, Sunderland.
But Josh Fowler, he was in trial at Motherwell and Kelly this season, and I think
level just a bit much.
He's good, but maybe just not quite. And then he's obviously moved to Dubai now. So
Motherwell had a boy in it pre-season, no?
That was him.
Was it him?
Aye, Fowler. He went to Belfast with Kelly as well after Motherwell, and McInnes was saying it good, but just no.
Yeah, I think the jump's too big for that. Yeah.
No, actually, we'd offered money for him, I think, but Beath Juniors were wanting a bit more, and we decided it wasn't worth it. And now he's sensationally got a move to Dubai, I think.
Aye.
So what Levy can't offer in finance, they can offer an opportunity. So there's two ways of looking at it. It's like you think of some of the lower leagues in Scotland, but also the lower leagues in England. And if we talk about the lower league in England, even like the Northern Conference and things like that, there's good players in there that might think, if I go to Livy and put myself in the shop window, I might end up at a Hibs, a Hearts or a Kilmarnock or somewhere like that, or an English Championship or go back down the road. Livy can offer opportunity rather than sometimes finance, but it's like you've got to then look at the scenario in the Livingston. Who is their scouting network? What is their scouting network? How do they recruit? Is it Davey just doing it all himself by the computer, the login, you put in the status, see what it comes up with, and then you go for it?
You talk about giving that opportunity and a platform. We signed boy Michael Nottingham, who was at Accrington Stanley, but kind of listening to him when he signed, he was talking about Davey was selling the opportunity to play in stadiums where there's 20,000, 50,000, and for example with the Old Firm, and he saw it as a great opportunity to come up here and play in that sort of environment. He only turned pro when he was 29. So he's looking at it, he's trying to make the most of his career whilst he can, and he saw it as a great opportunity to come up here and play in that sort of environment where he's played League 1, League 2 most of his career, or non-league in particular down south. So that there is that kind of selling point for us, but it is so difficult. Like the amount of trialists Davies had in over the summer, and I mean watching a couple of them in pre-season, I mean you don't want to see them again, but that's just the reality of being at Livingston. You're going to have 30 odd boys coming in on trial, and you just kind of hope you get maybe a Nubley, for example, who kind of breaks the mould. Right, a team that's off to an absolute flyer, St Johnstone. Must be delighted with how pre-seasons went, big man.
Fuck's sake, here we go.
How bad has it actually been?
Really
so
bad.
Saturday, is that the worst it's been up 4-0? Was it a weakened team, or it's not the team that's going to start this Saturday?
No, they rested a couple of guys, but it's the worst performance. Stirling were good for it, for the 4-0. That's the worst thing, and the worrying thing about it is, after losing to Ayr midweek, Steve McLean said, we'll get a reaction out of the players, and there wasn't one. Because it's not a Steve McLean kind of team. Like you've must have played against Steve McLean. He's an absolute pest and a menace and an animal and dirty, and that's how I thought he'd maybe set up his team, just to do the dirty stuff. But it was weak, it was timid, it was heads are down. Well, we had a squad of 42 guys last year. We've lost 17 of them and brought in 2. Our bench on Saturday had 16-year-olds all over the place, not any registered first team players in there, so we're short massively. Robbie Dees, Kyle Turner, both their dads played for Saints, so we looked like to be absolute stick-ons for signings. Matty Kennedy went to Kilmarnock for an extra $1,000, I believe, on what we offered them. But the good positive, steak and chorizo pie at the weekend. Honest to goodness.
It is a cracker, in fairness.
They do.
He just bought a season ticket, look.
Kelly was renowned.
They deviate between a steak and chorizo or a steak and haggis every week, so it's
can you only see one outcome this season?
Yeah, and well, you're saying earlier on that Motherwell and Hearts will be doing a lot of work in the transfer market. I think Saints now, I think that's going to get pushed on a bit now. McLean's coming out and saying all the right things. He doesn't want to bring in quantity, he's looking for quality. We've brought in a decent Bulgarian goalkeeper who looks pretty sharp. But unless we start getting bodies in and getting them in pretty quickly, it's going to be a very, very long season.
I think they go down a day. Bit harsh, but a day. Don't have a lot of hope for them.
I don't think Steve McLean will still get sacked, though, to be fair. We're not.
Think he'll get sacked?
Nah, I don't think he'll go. Even if you go down, I don't think so, because...
You don't know?
Nah.
It's weird that, though, because it's no long ago you were winning trophies.
Oh, we're talking about European games. We put Rosenborg out of Europe like a couple of years ago. We 1-1 draw with Galatasaray away, so it's not as if we're
That's mad, isn't it?
Cup doubles, the lot, and like I think for the younger guys, they've been absolutely spoiled over the last 15 years in the top flight because that's all they know. They don't know any different. But
why do you know?
Sam, we actually played. Sorry, Slane.
No, you go.
We actually played St Johnstone. Remember, I spoke to you after the game. We actually played St Johnstone a closed-off friendly towards the end of the season. That I phoned you. I don't know if you remember, saying they had a couple of young players that I was really impressed with. One of them was at East Fife. One of them was on
Alex Ferguson.
Alex Ferguson, that's it, right?
Ferguson, aye. And there was another couple. But do you see a lot of more sort of development players getting a chance this season at St Johnstone?
I think they're going to have to, which is a bonus to them. I think Callum was a bit scared to play the youngsters. Young Ukrainian guy, Max Kucheravi.
Yeah, he's been on loan a couple of times.
He was on loan at Falkirk, and a couple of my Falkirk supporting pals were like, please send him back. He was absolutely superb for the short time he was with him. He's had his opportunity this year, and I'd say Alex Ferguson, both of them have had a wee run of the games, but we need experience in there. Andrew Constine, Ryan McGowan, we really need to turn to these guys to like run the dressing room and get the young guys going. But
it's your only hope, the fact that possibly Livy are talking about having a struggle, Dundee coming up, maybe
that's
a struggle. That's probably a hope that.
Just hope they're shitter than us.
There's 3 or 4 leagues. There's going to be like 3 leagues within one league. You've got the top two fighting it out. You've got the next bunch fighting it for European place, and then we've got the 3 or 4 teams fighting off relegation.
Aye, that's it. If we could survive, I would genuinely take 11th now and cross my fingers in a 2-match shootout against a championship.
Hard to think, is it, Johnson, like talking at this, because they've been stalwarts of the Premier League for however long they've been in there.
15 years now.
They've never looked like ever being relegated, apart from obviously last season, my poor bit.
We all said at the time that we would have taken relegation. We said that at the time, but now, no, get to fuck now. That's over now. We don't want to get relegated. No.
2 cups, amazing, but then if suddenly next season you're struggling, you win the playoffs, you're not Cali.
We beat Cali in the playoffs 2 years ago.
I thought he would go before he did, and I thought you would have been a bit more sensible with your appointment.
I think moving forward, talking about Netflix documentary, Saints are actually up for sale, so that would be an ideal opportunity to get Ryan Reynolds in for a. That's it.
Have you got a question for the panel?
Who's replacing us from the Championship next year? Is it Dundee United a foregone conclusion, or is it a free for all?
I think Ayr are going to have a good chance at it. I think Ayers. I think looking at some of the results, they've won that group quite comfortably.
Lost their strikers, weren't they?
I know, but
he was the best
of what they're signing, they've obviously signed Jamie Murphy, they signed Aidan McGeady. I think they've probably got money to sign a striker. I know it's probably one of the most difficult things to get but I think the potential they could go and get somebody. Who that will be, I don't know, but they've not got a striker and they beat two.
I'll go Thistle.
Thistle's lost a few as well.
I know, but I really wish that Thistle had kept their players because I enjoyed watching them in the playoffs. I don't think Dundee United will go up.
I think
they've signed well.
I think Dunfermline will be there or thereabouts.
I agree with that.
They're linked with David Witherspoon as well, so if they get him, that'd be a massive coup.
Yeah. I think Airdrie will be a surprise package.
Yeah.
I think they'll be entertaining to watch this season.
I'll be different to say Queen's Park. They came to Fir Park and absolutely dominated us over the 90 minutes and were unlucky not to win.
They've got a Dutch manager now, haven't they?
Yeah.
It'll be interesting because the Dutch guys now took over, so...
They played total football at Fir Park and I'd never seen anything like it.
I still think Ross County could go down as well,
You're the man.
I think Ross County straight down, St Johnstone down in the playoffs.
Yeah.
He's only said that because the Ross County fans not here.
Ross County or St Mirren.
I caned them on a podcast at the end of the season when I was steaming on the last podcast and they got absolutely abused for Ross County fans. Honestly, mate.
What I found interesting about Ross County is, well, it's great because he's not here, I can slag them off to fuck. Big Uncle Roy in charge, who came out and said clubs should live within their means and not spend too much money to try and stay in the league, and he's absolutely spunked.
He spent a fortune.
The pies are very nice though, and the Mallow is decent. So.
You should do a pie review channel.
Another question for the panel. What's your favourite pie?
Ross, I've never heard Ross County pie's been Kelly pie. It was always Kelly pies that everyone loved, wasn't it?
Surely Kev's the man to talk about this, the scran and Scottish foot pie.
I don't scran at the fit bar.
That sounds elite by that.
Is it?
Surely Black Rooster at Rangers.
I went to a baseball game in Toronto and it was a hot dog with pulled pork on it and it was dipped into gravy.
Oh wow!
I was honestly, that was about 4 years ago and I'll still talk about it every single day of my life.
I'm fucking starving.
There was a guy.
I'm starving shop.
There was a guy got to the Rangers games and every week he'd sneak in a different hangman. I think he got He got a KFC, a Munchie box. Like, I don't know where he was putting it.
Paul Caddis on it.
Like a full roast dinner and stuff on.
Aye, full
What, on a plate?
I was like sneaking it so
every week, something different. He had.
It was really good. How do you know him?
No. Just seen it on Twitter, but it was cool.
Right, team, it's been a pleasure. He's been brilliant again. Big round of applause for everyone.
Very much, mate.
Thanks for coming again.
Thank you.
Tremendous.